Hello friends, welcome to another reel by Bharat Raghu. Today we would be trying to understand Nehruvian foreign policy, which forms the bedrock of Indian foreign policy even today. So Nehruvian foreign policy, how was it crafted? What did the man do which has built the foundations for India's foreign policy in so many years to come? So I'll be referring to Shashi Tharoor's famous book, Nehru by Shashi Tharoor. This is one of the most eloquently written, fluid writing, which helps viewers, especially those readers who want to understand Nehru and who don't have much of an idea before. Not going too much into intellectual details, but this book is really a good read. So, what Tharoor points out here is when Nehru, of course, became India's first prime minister, this whole concept of non-alignment, how did this emerge? So that's what we need to understand. So and we need to understand the world we were in. So the Second World War had just completed, and the Second World War had resulted in two giants emerging as superpowers: the Soviet Union, the USSR, and United States of America. And the world was starting to get embroiled in Cold War. So Cold War was not a direct conflict between both of them, not like actual war or fights, but there was this internal, the rumblings were starting, and there were countries who were getting independent, who were either siding with the Soviet Union or they were siding with the United States. And this is what the Cold War was. So this is where Nehru comes in. Now he crafts this non-aligned movement. So what happens? One of the incidents that happens is especially when Yugoslavian leader Tito, of course, he takes he marks a decisive shift. So he is a communist, but Yugoslavia is trying to get its kind of line cleared from the Soviet Union. So it's not going exactly in what the Soviet Union wants it to go. And it starts non-aligning itself. So Nehru sees this as a decisive shift and he aligns himself with Tito. So Tito and Nehru come together. Another such important figure is, of course, Nasser, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. So Egypt has become independent and Nasser is now this great Arab socialist leader, the Arab socialism concept, where he's emerged as this great leader and he's taking Egypt to great heights. Now he as well, so when he takes control over the Suez Canal and the French and basically the British start basically attacking Nasser, and there is even Israel starts attacking. So that's when he clearly supports Nasser. So he goes against the West in case of Nasser, and he supports Tito when Tito goes against the Soviet Union. So you can see the shift. So the three of them basically form the pillar of non-aligned movement. And there's this very important Afro-Asian conference at Bandung, which happens in 1955. And Nehru is the prime mover of this Afro-Asian conference. So he's already starting to build this kind of a confederation of African Asian countries who are being newly independent to have a clear non-aligned position. So what does this non-aligned position mean? So in case of the Korean War, for example, when China basically, so he supports a UN peacekeeping force, but at the same time Nehru supports that so he recognizes the creation of new countries like North Korea. So he is very clear in his stance. He takes a very nuanced position when it comes to foreign affairs. So of course Nehru goes on to build this. He needs to build industry in India. We need to understand India doesn't have any industry when the British were not there. So where does he go? He goes first, say, to the Americans, but the Americans are not, trusting Nehru, and they really don't see any clear vision from Nehru. So he then goes to the Soviet Union, and as we know, especially under Khrushchev, after Stalin basically is dead, that's when the Indo-Soviet relations start to pick, and Khrushchev and the Soviet Union help India in many of the steel plants which they established in India. You know, lot of techno know-how in Indian industry, whether it is the SAIL, the BHEL, the HAL, all the massive public sectors which are built in India have a Russian help, have the technical expertise. So India and Russia become very close during this time. There is this cultural synthesis. There is relations, there is exchange of even movies like Raj Kapoor, as we know, he was very famous in Russia. So Raj Kapoor movies. So this kind of a synthesis in improving relations with Russia has helped us even now. So India has one solid friend in, if you look at Nehruvian foreign policy, which even today is continued despite what is going on in the world today, Russia Ukraine war, etc. But India and Russia relations remain as solid as ever, and the foundation of this was laid by Nehru and the Soviet Union at that time. So we need to let's understand his foreign policy when it comes to China. So China, when China becomes a communist nation and it becomes independent, so Nehru is one of the first leaders to recognize China and also support its birth in the United Nations Security Council. So basically Nehru is playing this game where he's trying to understand, okay, we need to have a balanced relationship with China and with Russia. Especially he makes great strides with Russia and he's trying to build this kind of a balanced relation, the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, which they tried to formulate, of course, which doesn't work in the favor later. But the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai slogan was actually coined by Nehru, right? So he tried to build fraternity around his neighborhood and isolate Pakistan in a way, because he was trying to, because Pakistan was already entering into alliances with the West, whether it's NATO and things like that. So Pakistan was very eager to get into alliances. So in this context, Nehru is trying to balance, is trying to build a strategic understanding with China, a friendship with Russia, and also with the Eastern Bloc, countries, the Soviet Bloc, Eastern Bloc. So he has very good relations with them. He has good relations with the West as well. Where Churchill, as we know, the arch enemy of who didn't want India to be liberated, actually calls Nehru as the light of Asia. That must be surprising. So he has good relations with Britain. He has definitely good relations with the Labour Party in Britain. So this is how he's forming this kind of a so one of the other important things was this Panchsheel, which is the 5 pillars, 5 principles Jawahar wished to see the world in world affairs. So respect for sovereignty, non-aggression, non-interference in internal affairs, equality, and peaceful coexistence. So this is what are the principles of Panchsheel, the joint declaration issued by Nehru and Tito when they formed this non-aligned movement. So this still remains the pillar to today. That's what we should understand. The Panchsheel is one of the most significant achievements. So India didn't have a very powerful military. Despite India having a powerful military, Nehru goes on and brings India in the world stage, right? So that is what is his contribution. So of course, just want to end this here, that Jawaharlal's, one of what Tharoor writes is, Jawaharlal's first decade in office as Prime Minister of India was crowned by the award to him in 1955 by President Rajendra Prasad of the nation's highest civilian honor, the Bharat Ratna. The light of Asia was now officially the jewel of India. So this is the high time of Nehru. This is the foundation of Nehruvian foreign policy, which still is the bulwark of Indian foreign policy today. Hope you like this short reading through Tharoor's book on Nehru. Do read this book. It's a very good read, and for further information on Nehruvian policy. Thanks for watching. Bharat Raghu signing off.